I think Warframe Hounds are underrated companions, and I think more people should be using them simply because they're incredible at priming enemies. How, I hear you ask? I will go into detail, but it's mostly just Synergize Prospectus and Manifold Bond. If you mod the Hound's weapon, preferably the Kdenlive one, with as many elements as possible, you will spread statuses like there is no tomorrow. And that's not all. Synergize Prospectus, with the help of Manifold Bond, can proc some of your weapon arcanes and Warframe mods and arcanes. Cascadia Flare, Archon Stretch, Hotshot, Universal Fallout, and occasionally Secondary Fortifier. I'll get into that one later. I am going to make the assumption that you already know how to acquire and build Hounds, and how to get their associated mods and precepts. If not, please let me know if you'd like me to make a video covering that. If I've already made that video, I will place a link in the description and also the title card at the top corner of this video right now. With that out of the way, let's get back to it. So, for this to work efficiently, we have to play into mod priority order. This is because Hounds, as with all companions, activate preset mods in order of highest priority to lowest priority, with the top left being the highest and the bottom right being the lowest. They will also stop using other preset mods if the preset mod in the top left slot is able to be cast again, which is why we will be placing Synergize Prospectus here, in the top left mod slot. And to take full advantage of this, we will also be using Manifold Bond, as mentioned earlier. Most companion mods have cooldowns, and thanks to Manifold Bond, we are able to reduce these cooldowns by 3 seconds by killing enemies which have 3 or more unique status effects on them. Manifold Bond also makes companion damaging preset mods, Synergize Prospectus in this case, apply all weapon status effects to enemies the damaging precepts hit. I place it here, but you could put this mod in any of the remaining mod slots. So, how exactly does this work? Well, Synergize Prospectus shoots out a spark that deals 300 electric damage every 0.5 seconds in a 10 meter radius, and it actively seeks out the nearest enemy within 30 meters, though it can activate further away sometimes. The spark ricochets up to 7 times and will explode on the 8th bounce. Each tick of damage from the spark will activate Manifold Bond, applying the status effects that are modded onto the Hound's main weapon, including those from Momentous Bond, which leads to tons of status procs. If we kill just 3 enemies with 3 or more status effects on them, Synergize Prospectus will come off cooldown, and the Hound will cast it again, which means there can be multiple sparks bouncing around applying status effects at the same time. Also, because Synergize Prospectus is an ability, it will activate certain arcanes and mods. If you have heat as a separate element on the Hound's weapon, before I continue, you should be aware that DOTs applied by Synergize Prospectus will only deal 1 damage per tick, which is terrible for heat inherit if you or any of your teammates play into that. You can somewhat avoid this by not modding for heat, but Momentous Bond will still occasionally give your Hound some heat damage, so it's worth keeping that in mind so you don't mess up your own or any of your teammates' playstyles. It will fully stack Cascadia Flare and Arcane Hotshot really quickly, even if your Warframe has no heat abilities or your weapon no heat damage. Radiation will make it activate Arcane Universal Fallout, and because it deals electricity damage by default, it will activate Archon Stretch. And when it explodes on the final bounce, this explosion is able to trigger Secondary Fortifier if it hits an enemy with Overguard, as can the status effects applied by this explosion, so heat or electric procs from this that deal damage over time will steal Overguard over time, which can be quite interesting sometimes because it kind of acts like shield gating with Arcane Aegis, where you can be losing and gaining Overguard constantly for a few seconds. Oh, did I forget to mention? This triggers even if Secondary Fortifier is on your arc gun, even if your arc gun hasn't been summoned. Yeah. So, let's get into the builds. I'll start with the weapon and move on to the Hound itself after that. So for the Hound's weapon, we're going to need 3 Forma, and you're going to want to use these mods. Condition Overload. This is a no-brainer. With the amount of status effects Synergize Prospectus applies, the Hound gets a lot of benefit from Condition Overload. Virulent Scourge and Vicious Frost for Viral. You can go for Corrosive if you apply Viral with your weapons or abilities. It's your choice, just swap Vicious Frost for Voltaic Strike if that's the case. Focus Raiden for some radiation damage. Molten Impact for heat damage. These last 3 slots are flex slots. I plan to swap one of them out for a Riven when I can get one, but here's what I'm using for now. Melee Elementalist. Hi, Future Thraig here. After a whole bunch of testing on different Hounds and their weapons, contrary to what the wiki states, Melee Elementalist does not increase Hound attack speed. It also doesn't increase the damage of statuses applied by Synergized Prospectus, but it will increase the damage of the statuses inflicted by the Hound's melee weapon. I presently recommend you put any other mod here instead of Melee Elementalist. Unfortunately, I am not infallible and I did make a mistake. I'll try to be more diligent in testing things in the future. I apologize. A Smite mod. This is just an overall damage increase on its melee attacks, and Magnetic Rush. I just went for as many elements as I could get. It's worth noting, Hound melee attacks have low range and have a tendency to miss a lot. If you want, you can put a melee range mod here. This can help it hit more consistently. It's better, but it's negligible from my own testing. This one is just personal preference, I feel. Now, onto the Hound itself. I have 3 builds and some flex slots. Build number 1. This is my general use build, and there are 2 alternatives in this that can be swapped out based on your needs or wants. Synergized Prospectus. Obviously, it's our bread and butter with Hounds. Manifold Bond. Same again. Bread and butter, okay? We need these 2 mods for priming. Mystic Bond. This can be swapped out for whatever you want to place here. I suggest Reinforced Bond or Loyal Companion as an alternative if you would prefer. Momentous Bond. It can give our Hounds pretty much every element in the game if we get enough Eximus units. Null Audit. This is my favorite mod for this build because it steals Eximus abilities. And those Eximus abilities will also apply the status effects from our Hound's weapon thanks to Manifold Bond. It's pretty great, especially when they steal Jade Beams or Leech Pools. Metal Fiber. So, I use Metal Fiber here because I just like the tankiness it provides the Hound. You can definitely use Calculated Redirection, and it's pretty much a requirement to use Calculated Redirection if you're gonna use Reinforced Bond. Animal Instinct or Primed Animal Instinct. This is pretty much a requirement on every companion. I can't play without it anymore. It's just a huge quality of life improvement. Enhanced Vitality? Hounds are too squishy without some bonus health. And finally, Vacuum. Does this even need an explanation? It's required. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now for my niche build. Utility. I designed this for use with Equilibrium and energy-hungry frames. It's mostly the same. I've just swapped out Mystic Bond and Null Audit for Synth Deconstruct and Restorative Bond respectively. Synth Deconstruct makes any enemy damaged by the companion have a 25% chance to drop a health orb, and Synergized Prospectus will damage so many things that there is a ton of chance for health orbs to drop. And I put Restorative Bond here just so it's a little easier to revive the pet sometimes with all of the orbs, but you could easily swap this out for something like Duplex Bond or even leave Mystic Bond on if it's beneficial. It is worth noting, if you do use Duplex Bond, the damage dealt by the clones will not trigger Synth Deconstruct. Moving on, we have my favorite, but only with certain frames. Health Tank. This obviously works best on frames which have high health and armor, like Inaros, Chroma, Valkyr, Nidus, etc. I just swapped out Enhanced Vitality and Metal Fiber for their Link equivalents, and also swapped out Guardian for Mediray. As we're health tanking, this just makes sense, because it's gonna heal us. And again, Synth Deconstruct just for more health orbs to add a bit more healing, but you could put whatever here if you wanted. This last one is just part of a test I'm running right now, where I'm comparing spare parts to Resourceful Retriever for certain resource drop farming with like Korra and Necros. Obviously spare parts doesn't work on 100% drop rate things like certain boss drops and steel essence, etc. But I'm testing it on lower drop rate things like toroids, argon crystals, and that sort of thing across multiple missions of the same length. I will be releasing a video on that in the future. The build is just general use with spare parts in the flex slot, Make of that what you will. That's pretty much everything, I think. A huge thanks to the Solaris United workers for letting me record here in their beautiful city. I hope I didn't bother them too much. If you have any suggestions or improvements that could be made, or perhaps if I've missed something, please let me know in the comments. If you've made it this far, please also consider hitting that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. And with that, thank you for watching, and may we all gruff it from new knowledge. Manifold Bond also makes companion damage activate Manifold Bond, applying the status trigger a smite mod. Just an overall this one's just personal preference. Resourceful Guardian. This is